Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. Well, happy Hump Day Wednesday. This is probably the best week I've had since I can't even say when. So it's a good week. I for the first time in a very long time, I started the week actually feeling recharged. Not like, oh my god, it's Monday again. And I didn't Peter dislike either job that I'm at right now or any of the gig work that I'm doing. No, I didn't Peter dislike any of that. I only Peter disliked the pace of it. Feels like Monday would come, and I love all my students, schools that I'm teaching at. But I would feel like I fell face first on the pavement. I really did. I didn't get to catch all my bearings in place. It's just, oh man, I like this. The Peter likes sugar. I felt like I fell face first on the pavement. I didn't get all my bearings in place. And the week would grind away with me not on board the ship yet, right? The train would leave without with half my body still at the station, right? If I had to describe a typical Monday this past summer, right, that's how I would like to describe it. Another way to describe it is like, see, I love to make bismuth art. Let me see if I can find my latest and proudest creation. I finally found a really good two-sided tape to put everything into different frames. See if this will show on the live stream camera. I hope this will show well. But I finally found the right two-sided tape to put bismuth into a frame like this without being too destructive, right? I didn't want to super glue it because I want it to be removable. And so here it is. So an analogy of a typical Monday this past year when I was really burnt out is when you melt bismuth, right? You got to make sure it's uniformly melted. You got to make sure you get all the slag out of it before you pour. A lot of times in my life, I was pouring bismuth before it was uniformly melted, right? In my life, right? I was going to the classroom unprepared, poorly dressed, very rushed, sometimes having to drive over the speed limit, sometimes not even having time to eat properly, not having time to fully recharge myself. And I might still be able to teach. You might still be able to pour the bismuth when it's in a messy state. You'll probably not get something like this, right? And uh, unfortunately, a lot of times our culture, right? See, I live in a hostel right now, and some of my roommates are extremely sensitive, right, to noise. Like, for example, normal talking noises, right? For example, God forbid I try to record a Peter Dislike show at night, but normal noises like cooking or turning on the tap water or flushing the toilet or just normal walking noises, right, will bother them. And I think these people are probably only mostly sensitive because of the pressure their job pushes on them, right? They don't want to have trouble waking up the following day. And you know at my job at Phoenix College, I so much wish they would have little places that you can nap, right? So it would seriously increase the safety of things, right? Sometimes after teaching, I so badly need to take a nap before I drive home, right? Right now I can probably pull it off in my car, but earlier in the summer when it was 120 degrees, you don't want to do that, right? Sometimes I would just sleep on the floor in my office because it's better than getting into a car accident. And unfortunately, people comment about that, and it's good that my boss and I are on healthy terms, right? I said, well, do you prefer that I go to my car and get a heat stroke, right? And she was like, good point. So in previous jobs, some of my bosses did not beat at that kind of wavelength with me, right? So, and unfortunately, at my last job, I had a boss who was power hungry, to say the least. And I was working at a tutoring center, and the students and I really got along. To give you an idea of how much the students and I get along, sometimes I would be out shopping. I would run into a former student. I would run into their parents. They would say hello. I would say hello. And they would ask me about my bismuth art. They still remembered me as the bismuth guy. And unfortunately, my boss and I didn't have that kind of rapport. He would comment on things that I had said during the tutoring session that he thought were too dramatic for the student. So one time I had given an example about I was teaching microeconomics, and so we were talking about different goods and services substituting each other. For example, um, sometimes I go out on a date with myself, right? So I asked the student, is the date with myself a substitute or a complement to with dating somebody else? And I asked the students to think critically about that. And my boss thought that was too personal of an example, for lack of a better word. And the students are 15, 16, 17 years old. I mean, and talking about going on a date with yourself is too personal, really? And the students certainly didn't feel that way. The parents certainly didn't complain. The only time I got a parent who complained was one time I was teaching a sixth grader. I was teaching him about the wonders of compound interest and how if you take care of your body and you live to be 300 years old, you might own the world, right? It doesn't take all that many years. And I kind of said that I expect to live 300 years old because a lot of people think that I'm a student, and if I continue to age at the rate that I'm going, right, I might just make it. And and the first thing I want to do is to own all the bismuth in the world. And the parent got really upset that I was talking about the idea of living to be 300. And the mom came up to me and explained that they had just lost their grandmother. She was 85 years old, and how my son doesn't need to hear about the possibility of dying of cancer for 200 some years. And I really didn't think of it that way. I apologized to the mom, but in the back of my mind, I thought that was a pretty frivolous complaint because living to be 300 doesn't mean that, oh, you get cancer when you're 85 years old and you die of cancer for 200 some years. No, it means that maybe instead of getting cancer when you're 85, you might get cancer when you're 250, and there might be even a cure for it at that point, right? That's what it means to live to be 300, right? I didn't tell her that, obviously. But my boss and I didn't get along. He would make complaints about little details like that. He would micromanage things, and to give you an idea of how badly Peter disliked my boss, I was just about to schedule a summer vacation, but I wanted to know when he was on vacation first because I would schedule a different week. That way I could enjoy two vacations, one of my own and one when I didn't have to be micromanaged, right? It would be a shame if we scheduled the same week, right? So I asked him, and I just very casually asked him, how's your family doing? Are you planning any vacation? And he said he didn't have any plans. I didn't believe it because he seemed like a very family oriented guy. And one day he asked me to teach something on his computer remotely. One of his students was sick away, and when I got to his computer, I decided to snoop around, and I found his calendar with his vacation marked on there when he swore that he had no plans of going away. And that's just kind of funny, right? In retrospect, I should have said that, hey, why don't since we work so well together, why don't I schedule a day when you're not away so that we won't have too much conflict, something to that effect, right? But I didn't think about that. And to give you an idea of how times have changed, at my current job, my boss and I, who get along very well, right, who understood why I was sleeping on the floor in my office, who thought that we should also have a nap room. I like her so much that it brings me pains to see that she's looking to retire, right? Because you never know who she's going to be replaced with, right? That's always an uncertainty. And also, I wanted to know when she's going on vacation so I could go the same week. That way, I won't miss time with her. And but you know what? I last time I tried to play that game, it didn't turn well. So I'll just very casually talk to her. Maybe she'll let out her vacation plans, and that's good too, right? Anyway, so the best week I've ever had for probably decades now, right? This is the Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum